Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and if you are one of the few watching right now, because I directed you to this Rockfin only video, I've been kicked off of YouTube. Now I had planned on taping this also and then putting up select clips because I've been extra careful to try not to get a retroactive strike 3. It's kind of ironic because we have Cara Castronuova with us, and Cara doesn't know this, but 3 days ago, they took down another video but did not give me a strike, and it happened to be the video where I met you in person for the first time, where I had been confronted by Antifa. I then came down and covered that. I met you. I met Risk Flex. You pointed out Enrique Atario. I interviewed him as well. That somehow violated the community standards but didn't give me a strike, and they just took it down. And then literally today, my last video got reported, and I simply showed a couple of articles to do, and we'll probably go over that here. That's the level of censorship we're at, but where my channel of 14 plus years, folks, is now gone. So, Cara, I'm sorry for this weird introduction.
I'm sorry. That's terrible.
It's
Terrible.
it's outlandish, but we didn't actually see each other on the Capitol. We spoke. We haven't discussed the Capitol incident. We haven't discussed what's been going on in New York City. We haven't discussed the actions that yourself and others are trying to take against Andrew Cuomo, Excelsior Pass, and all this tyranny that's still going on in your area. So to start off, Cara, why don't you tell my audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Cara. I've been on your show before, and I'm happy when I did it because so many people are actually watching and came to a rally that I was organizing. So I organize rallies here in New York. I've done some in other states too. I got really active with politics and activism, I guess you could say. I wouldn't really say politics. I think it's more like sticking up for my rights as a human being and other people that I care about.
Mm-hmm.
When everything started around this time last year, more like March of last year, when the shutdown happened in New York. And my background is I'm a boxer. I was a champion boxer. I've done a lot of stuff on TV. So that's my professional background. But when it comes to what's going on right now, I'm just like a very concerned person that is trying to do what I can to talk to people, make people aware of what's going on, do my homework and do my research, really take precaution when it comes to consuming certain news outlets. Walking, I'll cover my ears sometimes when I walk by a TV, literally, because I just don't need to have that propaganda like in my brain. So that's where I'm at right now. After the Capitol on January 6th, you're right. You were there. I think I was there too.
Yeah.
We didn't see each other, and ever since then, I kind of had to just take not being defeated in any way, but I just needed a little break from everything. I think a lot of people felt really frustrated and really, I still say my real opinion about what happened on January 6th is that was just the culmination of a lot of people being unheard and being very frustrated. I'm not going to comment on any of the violence that happened or that was reported, because I didn't see any of that.
Mm-hmm.
All I saw from where I was standing was really frustrated people that were very hurt and very upset that their voices weren't being heard. And then the way that the news slandered and just destroyed like the whole entire event. Obviously what happened with people going in and breaching the Capitol. I'm not going to comment on that, but there was also thousands upon thousands of other people there, peaceful, completely it was just a totally different scene, and that was completely neglected. And that was historical in and of itself. Like hundreds of thousands of people, whatever it was, thousands of people descend on the Capitol to say that they want election integrity. That's never happened in the history of the United States. I don't even think in the world. And they didn't even report that. Like, people are frustrated. People are feeling like they're not heard. They all came from all over the country. All they could report on was a couple of incidents that they felt were, I guess, better for TV. And, that's where we are now. Nobody's going to ever remember the event for what I think it really was, which is frustrating for me.
Well, I totally understand what you're saying, and I was on the Capitol. I made my way up into the second story. I was able to get off, one semi-live stream on the way there. Obviously, a lot of the stuff was jammed. Put something up from the Capitol. Media stole it from me. Hasn't paid me, by the way, although their lawyers contacted me for some reason. I'm sure they would rather have the FBI arrest me, for covering the event or whatever. That's how ridiculous the situation has been. But in large part, you're correct. Most of the people there, it was more of a concert feeling of, hey, why aren't we being heard? It was joy, it was happiness, it wasn't violence. Again, when you look at the numbers, who died? Who died? None of the law enforcement. You show me the insurrection or coup where nobody on the other side dies, no police officers die, no military dies, none of the supposed treasonous actors are ever even touched, and the leader is a guy who lives with his mother in a basement with a big thing on his head with his face painted, who says he's a QAnon shaman, taking selfies. Right. I mean, it's a joke. It's a bad joke, and since then, they've upped these hate speech laws. They've upped this rhetoric of domestic terrorism and insurrection against just anybody they want. And one of the things that you sent to me, especially being in New York, and this new hype around Asian hate crimes, right? It's not just, black or Hispanic, And by the way, a crime is a crime. If this woman was trespassing, let's get her for trespassing. But what's very unnerving is an undercover officer gets this woman for basically saying that you started the coronavirus to an Asian person, saying it originated from China, and then supposedly making a threat against them, calling them a monkey and something else if you read the article. Well, okay, if they're trespassing, that's enough, but now you want to throw hate crimes on it. And you know that I sent you the article where de Blasio is now talking about what? He's talking about police going up and speaking to people even if they're not committing crimes. All at a time that there's more authoritarianism than ever with this medical martial law and Excelsior Pass. I mean, it feels like, especially where you are, you must be engulfed in an utter nightmare.
It is a nightmare. And I've been, I'm not saying I just kind of saw this coming this whole time. I saw this coming last year. Mm-hmm. I knew something was going on where it was like a bigger plan and a bigger picture. Then when January 6th happened, I was like, damn, you know what I mean? Because the whole thing with the white supremacy that they're using, white supremacy this, white supremacy that, these Asian hate crimes are results of white supremacy. I mean, a lot of it, they're trying to relate it back to the Capitol to pass this legislation. I don't know if white supremacy exists. I've never personally encountered any white supremacists. I'm Asian myself. I've never encountered a white supremacist. I'm sure there's racist people out there that say stupid, terrible things. Does it exist to the point where you need to create legislation that's going to infringe on people's constitutional rights, that the American citizen could be treated like a terrorist, a domestic terrorist, because they might be associated with white supremacy? It's terrifying. And I don't think these groups that mean well, like you see all these rallies, I'm sure, around the country for against Asian hate crimes, or against, for Black Lives Matter and against white supremacy. They mean well. They don't want, obviously nobody wants white supremacy, but they don't realize they're digging their own damn grave. And right now in New York City, all that you see is these stop Asian hate, stop Asian hate, stop Asian hate. And to me, it's like mind boggling. Like I said, I have an Asian family. I come from an Asian family. I mean, I guess there's Asian hate crimes. There always has been. It just makes me wonder why all of a sudden the police care, why all of a sudden the government care, why all of a sudden the news cares. I'm like, oh, all of a sudden it's a big deal. Like, you care all of a sudden? Well, give me a break. It makes no sense. And then you see these crazy rallies everywhere and everybody in on it, distracting themselves, blaming it on white supremacy, and not realizing that as they're fighting the wrong enemy, which is this guise of white supremacy, they are letting the government completely trample and write this legislation and make up these new laws right under their noses. And look what happened today now. Everybody's mad about it. I know a lot of people in the Black Lives Matter movement who have complained and said to me, this is BS. What did you expect was going to happen? You know what I mean? Now, look, somebody said something racist. It's not nice to say racist things, but it's, as far as I'm concerned, if someone says something racist and I'm Asian, she said some terrible things, you should not be arrested.
No. And let's expand upon that, because you talked about this doesn't make sense. Well, let me tell you why it makes perfect sense. Because just like the white supremacy card with everything Trump was never really about real white supremacy, it was about demonizing a class of people. We know they've used the Capitol incident for the first time in history to militarize the Capitol. And then what happened, what about a week and a half ago? That crash, the person that apparently crashed into the Capitol, who did they associate him with? Louis Farrakhan, Nation of Islam, black supremacy. And that's a hate crime as well. So they're building these narratives where it won't really matter what racial group you identify in. There will always be some type of hate speech law that will apply to you under that guise, so they can come after you for other things. Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. If you enjoyed that segment with ex-professional fighter Cara Castronuova, please go check out the entire interview exclusively over at the Rockfin. Make your free account now, and I'll see you over there.